Okay, right now we're going to talk about natural ways of experiencing altered states of consciousness, or trance states. Um, First thing I'm going to talk about are altered states or trances induced by legal substances that can get you high. Um, yeah, and some people may find that particular subject a bit touchy. So yeah, I don't necessarily recommend it. There are some ways of actually going into trance states fairly easily without ever needing to take drugs, even though some of those experiences can be interesting. Not that I'm speaking from personal experience or anything. Um, anyway, honestly, I haven't really tried very many substances, but I am fascinated by all of it. And for example, there's a legal mushroom that you can partake in, which has a long, long history, and it's associated with shamanism. And these things aren't to be used recreationally, really. Not in my opinion. I think that historically they have a certain quote unquote sacred use, and I'm not going to get into the whole spirituality thing of any sort of spiritual element to the experiences because I don't view them as spiritual. I mean, well, I guess it depends on your particular view of what counts as spirituality. Um, I just think the experiences are fascinating, and they can kind of help you explore certain states of consciousness. Like Amanita muscario is a legal mushroom, red with white dots on it. You've probably seen them before, but yeah, very very interesting substance. And if you're interested in looking at legal or substances that are legal, which can help you get high, I recommend going to erowid.com. That's EROWID. You can just type that in the search on Google and it should pop up. Um, but aside from, just taking a rendezvous with people who have a bent for exploring psychedelics, we probably should talk about another method that I actually prefer to use and have used before. Um, I've not really made it secret at all. I've had quite a few apparitional experiences in my life, and in fact, that's one of the reasons I got interested in parapsychology, and actually mainly the psychology behind the belief in these particular areas. So, one particular method you can do is something tried and true. You can experiment with hypnagogia, whatever. Hypnagogia. That's how you say it, or how I say it anyway. I've heard people say it many different ways. But there are plenty of different ways to do that. Hypnagogia is a natural state that you go into every night. Right when you're falling asleep, it's almost like a borderland state. And then there's hypnopompia. Hypnopompia is a term that was coined by Frederick Myers, a psychical researcher from the late 19th century. And that's when you're waking up. It's pretty much the borderland state when you're waking up. Now, these states have a long association with a lot of different phenomena, including psychic experiences and apparitional phenomena and things like that. Now, whether or not they're actually psychic, that's a different question. But, they have an association with that type of thing. And the experiences are actually very, very interesting. And there's a book on the subject by Andreas Mavromatis, I believe. I think that's his name. Mavromatis is his last name. But it is a very, very well-written book, and there's a couple of sources online if you're interested in hypnagogia. One of the ways, and I'm going to keep this video short because I don't want to make it too long, but if you don't have the benefit of an actual hypnotist or someone who can put you in a trance state, you might just try this when you're going to bed at night. Just try and watch and analyze your falling asleep, or the pattern as you fall asleep, and keep yourself semi-awake as long as possible. The more you can do that, the easier it is to actually go into a type of trance. And it's much more difficult than it actually sounds. It takes a lot of willpower, and one of the ways I do it is I just get a pan, which is this is a teapot. Don't ask me why I chose that. It's one of the few things in the house that's metal and makes a loud noise when I drop this in it. So the idea is when I am laying down, and yeah, I'm in bed, you take the ball, you hold it over the pan, and as you hold it over the pan, you actually kind of grip it. And as you're falling asleep, the ball will naturally drop into the pan and wake you up. It'll jar you a little bit, so what you have to do then is pick the ball right back up and go right back to it and just try and keep yourself in that state of semi-sleep. And if you do it long enough, you can have some very, very interesting experiences, and some people even consider them paranormal. Now that's not really warranted at all, necessarily. There have been some interesting experiences, and I'm not trying to give that the boot or anything. I'm not trying to be critical of it right now. But yeah, it does have a long association with that sort of thing. So if you're thinking about exploring trance states, you might give hypnagogia a shot. And it takes patience and a lot of willpower. Any questions, feel free to ask. I'm here all week.